Welcome to Hypnosis in Action.
Absolutely.
My name is Stephen Anderson, and today I have with me a fellow hypnotist, Matthew Christopher.
Yes.
Now, Matthew Christopher, I've started bringing hypnotists onto the show.
Oh, you poor man.
Before this, I was just saying, look, I'm going out looking for really impressive people.
Okay,
I actually happen to believe anyone who will do hypnosis and call themselves are happy to call themselves a hypnotist is pretty impressive, because we have a name that scares a lot of people.
It does, yes.
So
please don't tell them about the secret handshake.
I will not tell them that, but you can see it on YouTube.
Pardon me.
Matthew,
Yes,
the name of this game is simply to find out a bit about you.
Sure.
As I say, I look for impressive people. I actually believe you're fairly impressive.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. And I try and work out why impressive people are different to your average day Joe. So that's my job today.
So we're labelling everybody, We can have 10 easy categories.
I'm labelling everybody, because I firmly believe that 90% of people just are not interested in growing.
No, they're not.
And that's what we're going to do today.
Great, wonderful.
So let's begin at the beginning.
My beginning?
I asked that because I've just picked you up in Camp Hill.
Yes, you have.
And you've noticed I've taken a bit of a direction, and I'm turning into a street that is one street off the place where I grew up.
Really?
Yes.
Oh,
so
wow.
Where did you begin? Well, when I say when I was in grade 1.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was 4 when I moved into Carina.
Oh, wow. Oh, you are a true local.
And
is that why you've got the 4152 tatted on your neck?
That's it. Absolutely. I only really lived here for 6 years or something like that.
That's okay.
Still,
I'll accept that. But because you were born in the 4152, you were born with a black skivvy, weren't you?
When you think about it, I moved into... Yes. No. In 1970 or 1965, we had no yuppies in Carina.
Oh, didn't you?
It was all working class.
Oh, don't say that.
They're now the cafe latte.
So your mum didn't feed you avocado?
No. No. We had meat and 3 veg.
Oh,
was standard food.
Yes.
Where did you come from? Interestingly, you have an Mediterranean appearance.
I am, yes, on Greek background.
It did not surprise me even slightly when you said your father was a builder and a
developer. No. I think all Greeks were either you're born as building something,
building or
restaurateurs or fish and chip shops or something. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yes, I was born. Actually, it's interesting, Steve. I have 2 days ago we were in Melbourne. So I was a keynote speaker at a conference along the Great Ocean Road in Victoria. So
I was there a fortnight ago.
Oh wow!
Just gorgeous.
God, it is absolutely
just gorgeous.
I was born in Brighton in Melbourne.
Right.
And we actually, I was born in Brighton, and then at about 15, 16 years of age, Dad, decided that, I don't know why it took him so long, but the weather was starting to annoy him in Victoria. I can't understand why. When we got there, it was 45 degrees, right? Then the next day it was like 18.
Yes.
Then it went back to 35. Then it went to 10. Then it went to 45 again. I can't understand why it took him so long. But anyway, then Dad said, no, I want to move to the Sunshine Coast. So from 16 years of age, I moved, obviously Mum and Dad, I was 15, still with Mum and Dad, and we moved to Caloundra. So I spent most of my life up until I was about 23, 24, and moved out of home with my best mate Kane, and we actually moved to Camp Hill. Now 20 odd years later, I've still been in Camp Hill, married and child.
You stayed in Camp Hill the whole 20 years?
Yes.
So once upon a time, that is where I lived.
Wow!
It's not the house. It's burnt down twice since I lived there.
Well, why did your parents let you play with matches?
Yes, well, these things do
That's
happen.
That's the best stage show you've ever done, isn't it?
It is. A bit of matches. Attracted everyone in the street.
Yeah, well. Oh, that's wonderful.
I'm loving this drive because I'm looking ahead now, and what you see is a lot of
townhouses. Yes.
And those townhouses are built on the oval that used to be my school.
Oh, really?
And it was a very small oval, so at lunchtime we would go across the street into the cow paddock.
Yes. Oh, right, where Carindale Shopping Centre is.
Where Carindale Shopping Centre is.
Okay.
And I'll ignore that.
And do you know something? I know the Italian family that used to own those. The dairy there.
Oh, do you?
Yes, yes.
Fabulous.
Yes.
So
they moved to Victoria.
They moved to Okay, so you moved to Camp Hill.
Yes.
On the south side of Brisbane.
Yes.
And you have been there for 20 years.
That's correct. Yep.
Excellent.
Yeah, I love it.
It is a lovely spot.
It is, yes.
Now, let's go back before 23 when you moved here.
Yes, yes.
How were you at school? I pointed out my school.
Yes.
And at that school, I interestingly enough, my school years aren't that much of a memory for me. Yep. I only have little flashes that I remember. And none of them are really fabulous. So what was your schooling like?
It was tough. I faced a lot of obstacles, actually. My brother and I were pretty much the only Greek children or so forth. And we did face a lot of bullying and harassment. That was hard, but we overcame that by playing sports.
So I'm guessing it was a public school?
Yes, it was. Public school, absolutely. Yes.
As opposed to a Catholic school.
No, it wasn't Catholic.
Which that one was.
No.
Yeah, so Greek people have sort of been in my life right since
Oh,
then.
really? Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, because, well, I suppose you're...
Damn you, Mum and Dad, you stingy people.
I suppose
maybe they wanted to tough us up.
Greek is probably more Greek Orthodox.
It is, absolutely.
But yeah,
yes.
okay, then maybe it was more Italian people that I knew, but the Mediterranean...
Don't tell the Italians that we're actually just about the same, but don't tell them that they get rather excited. So, it's interesting.
When you say bullying, okay, today I think the word is now lost because things that are not as severe as they once were are classified as bullying. And the real bullying, they're all jumbled in together.
Yep.
And I think, I when I started my apprenticeship, there was another apprentice who started at the same time as me, who was probably the most intelligent guy on the workshop floor.
Right. Yes.
And probably a little bit on the spectrum too.
Oh, right. Okay.
So he was bullied mercilessly for the first 12 months, and then just never came back.
Oh, wow.
And really, really heavily. I don't think he was ever hung upside down over a toilet bowl.
Oh, that's,
psychologically, he was very badly bullied.
Absolutely.
And at school, we used to see a lot of the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
But now, I think it's a little bit different, but that's just my thought.
Yeah.
What would you say was your typical day?
Well, it's my... if I may jump forward to being a coach, and when I talk about non-judging, it takes me back, and why I'm so passionate about that. We use a label, coaches. I'm just talking about healthy human functioning. That's really what we're what I'm trying to encourage. My earliest memories at school, I was grade 1, so I think 6 years old or whatever, a bit under in Victoria, a little bit different to what it was in Queensland. Anyway, I'm playing in the playground, and I'm playing with the kids, and then these 2 older boys came up and said, "Don't play with him." And I looked at them, and they said, and I remember this as clear as day.
They pointed and said,
they pointed to me, "Don't play with him." That's me.
Yep.
And I was playing with a girl and a boy, having a nice, I can't remember what it was, playing nicely. And I said, "Oh, why is that?" And the older boy looks at me and he says, "Because he's an abo." Oh. And I didn't understand. I said, "What's an abo?" And he said, "You're an Aboriginal." And I'm like, "No, I'm not an Aboriginal." And the other boy goes, "Well, you're not from around here." I said, "Oh, well, you know, I'm Greek, you know, I didn't understand any racism." And, "Oh, well, of course, you know, we'll go back to your own country," and all of that. And then I said something to the boy like, you know, whatever it was, you're being rude or nasty or whatever. And then he punched me fair and square in the face. And it was the first time in my life. I mean, my parents, you know, I mean, they discipline us, but nothing, you know. They were strict, but nothing you'd call violence, you know. The first time I ever punched him in the face. And it wasn't the last, mate. Right. But, and I was
Your nose is looking pretty straight.
Yes, it is. And I went to the teacher, and I was crying. And the teacher said, "Oh, just ignore them." And I'd just been punched in the face. And I remember there was a period of adjusting where I didn't know, you know, until sports came in, a sense of humour and all of those sort of things. People warmed to me like that. And there I was, I'll never forget this, eating my lunch, and there was two Aboriginal boys, Pat and Robbie, who believe it or not, talk about stolen generation, actually came from the orphanage up the road. Oh, really? And they were dressed differently to everybody else. Yeah. Actually, they had a school uniform. We sort of didn't. It was really weird. Like, they actually got the proper school uniform. I don't know why. And there was me, and then there was another young girl, and she wore a scarf. And her parents were brethren. And she didn't want to associate with the other kids because of her religious belief. And here I am. I've got the two Aboriginal boys, the Greek and the brethren. And that was sort of, I became friends with them all. And that was sort of the beginning of what I would call diversity, you know, and then learning to overcome that. But I'm acutely aware of discrimination, and that was something I was always able to walk in a room and detect when someone was like, oh, look at her, or look at him, or whatever it happens to be. And I think that's what's those early learnings, and also overcoming. Well, I could never understand when we played cricket, which I wasn't familiar with cricket. Dad would always play what we call football or soccer. Yep. So I love soccer or football, and but we played cricket, and they picked me, and I remember I on our little oval I hit a six, you know, what we called a six, you know, out of the boundary. They thought I was fantastic, I was ace, you know, and that made a difference to them, that I could play sports and had a good sense of humour, and also I know this is probably politically incorrect, and people, there was no such thing at the time of sort of negotiating your way out of it. Like, basically, unfortunately, it's not something I'm proud of, but basically if you didn't know how to look after yourself, as in fight back, it's terrible to say that, basically they kept on at you. So, you know, I had bullies, and, you know, getting beaten up, and I remember this kid was just wailing. I didn't know how to fight, and I was getting blood. I'm talking blood coming out my nose, mouth, split lip, all of that. I mean, it was a good old-fashioned beating. They give it to you. You're talking about kids under 10 years old. And I remember thinking to myself, I've got to whack this kid just at least once, so I can sort of be. I've been hit 25 times, and I managed somehow, by the grace of God, to whack this kid. And he sort of looked at me like, oh, what's all that about? Hang on, I'm meant to be beating you up. You know? And then we became friends. And there's sort of,
that's the way it sort of
it's so weird. Like, you're all right. You know, oh, okay, well, okay. So, and I never. It's funny because once we got over that hurdle, I never bore grudges. I just went. I don't know why. I just went, okay, well, and then we became really good friends. And the great compliment was, oh, well, you might be a wog, but you're okay. So I'm like, well, that's interesting. I'm still a wog, but I'm okay. So, look, I learned, I wouldn't, ever want my daughter to go through any of that. We need to stop that. But I do think that it's like sometimes you need to really have your back against the wall to find out the qualities that you've got. And I think sometimes we need to sort of go through the tough stuff to really see what we're made of. I'm not saying it's good, I wouldn't encourage it, but you know what, you really have to dig deep with resources. And for me, sense of humour, playing sports, and really not bearing grudges. You know, once people said, oh look, I'm sorry, or whatever, you know, and they would apologise later on, you know, for what they did. And I'm like, oh, that's okay. I sort of, you know, they were scared and didn't, you know, but they never met any Greek kids before or whatever. So, yeah, that was my, but school, I was, in terms of the core disciplines, you know, maths and science, English, that sort of stuff, I wasn't very good at all, but I was very good at art, drama, debating, all of those things. So, but the good old thing was when in Victoria you did your junior certificate, I think it was around year 10, and it literally was, you were at year 10, you were basically, all of the boys went off to do apprenticeships. You either, Mum said, what do you want to be? And I said, oh, I want to be a historian. Okay. And Mum looks at me and she's like, you want to be a historian? You can't make any money from that. You know, you should be a bricklayer. You know, just like, you know. So I became a painter. But I'm just like, what's the use of that? Well, they couldn't understand what, like, I want to be a historian. It's like, oh well, you know. Like,
so what was in them? Because I'm guessing that they were first generation.
They were, absolutely.
Okay, so they've come to a whole new country, moved their whole family across the world.
Yep.
How did that upbringing work for you? Because I'm seeing at school it was a bit tough.
Yes, it was.
What was it like at home?
Very loving.
I say a bit tough. It was probably a little bit more than a bit tough.
Yeah. What was my home life?
Yeah.
It was...
Because you've got a mum who doesn't understand the thought of higher education.
No, neither did. Neither did. Okay. No.
But I'm guessing, and this is, here I go stereotyping.
No, go for it.
I'm guessing by the time you were in school, coming to the end of school, your parents had reached a point where they were starting to, if not have become wealthy, were heading definitely in that direction.
They were, yes.
Okay, without an education.
Yes, without an education, yes. That's a really good point, Steve. Mum was only, they came in 1952, 53, so Mum was only a very little child when they came out from Greece, and if I may just make a side point for people about immigration, many people don't understand that after the Second World War, the Australian government, this is why I say about immigration, please get your head around immigration. The Australian government actually went and they literally had boards, and they came out to where my family were and they said, would you like to come to Australia, and we've actually got these jobs for you and this is how much you'll get paid. They invited them to come.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't, they actually said, we want you. And when, well, it was my grandparents, when they came to Australia, they were in Melbourne, my grandfather went straight into working at, I think he was International Harvester, and then he went to Ford's for many, many years. The factories opened up and they went straight in. They didn't speak a word of English. So they were actually invited to the country. Now, for Mum and Dad, my parents said, they were very, and I'm very grateful for Mum and Dad. They said, look, you're Australian now, and yes, you have a Greek heritage, and it's very important, but you need to be part of the community, and they were very proactive in that. They're very loving and very caring. They're great.
Okay, can you put in one sentence, what was your point about immigration?
Well, I think people are frightened of immigrants. I mean, the whole country, bar the first, bar the first Australian First Nation, we're all immigrants. I mean, we're all immigrants. We've all come here and brought our own cultures with us. So
generally from Europe.
Yes, absolutely, and from China too.
And they
were there right from the beginning. Absolutely. Right from the beginning they were, and Americans too. But I'm just saying, so when people go, oh, we're wrecking the country, no, well, this whole country is either people invited or desperately coming here. We the non-first people, this thing that we call Australia is built on migration. So, how can we be anti-migration in any shape or form when we are migrants, whether we're English, Irish, German, Jewish, Polish, Greek, Chinese? We're all come here with our story from another country, not this own. So not this one. So,
okay. Can I ask? At 23, you moved to Campbell.
Yes.
At 15, you went and became a painter.
Yes.
Did you at that time or before or after? Have you gone back to study anything?
Not at that stage. Not at 15. Okay. No.
I mean after.
Yes.
So you left school.
Yes.
Went away.
Yep.
You've done hypnosis, obviously.
Yes, that's
not
later.
Really,
that's
not
later.
really a university course.
No.
Did you head back to that way after you learned to be a painter? After you did all these?
To university?
Yeah.
No, the answer is no, I didn't.
Okay, cool.
But when I was, I finished my apprenticeship, and soon as I finished my apprenticeship, I was really, I just, for want of a better word, spiritually, I wasn't fulfilled as a tradie. I never saw myself as a tradie or something that. Oh, I was pretty much forced to. Yeah. I mean, Mum and Dad were like, "Well, you're not going to sit at home. You have your holidays. You're doing an apprenticeship, or So there's no lazy people in a Greek household. So I actually wanted to study to be a nurse, and because I wanted to actually work as a psych nurse. That's I actually wanted to do that. And when I started inquiring about it, I would have needed to go back to finish senior, which was year 11 and 12, of course. But at that stage, you couldn't do it like you can at the colleges or so forth. So you would actually have to go back to high school.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Actually, I remember. I did. Yes.
And so I was like, I really seriously thought about going back, and I have to say, me going back with the young guys at high school, to be honest with you, was actually very intimidating. I felt like I'd be a fish out of water, and so I just got absorbed in making money and so forth. So
making money as a tradie. So
yes, as a
tradie. You went into building yourself.
Yes, I did. Yes,
ticket, all that sort of stuff.
Oh no, but no, I didn't do that. But I got involved in property developing. My brothers are building designers, and we just from very early on got involved in renovating and doing projects and so forth. So So yes.
So you're. Where were? Yes, another really prying question.
Yes, go for it.
I went through apprenticeship with a fellow. Again, I'm not sure if he was Greek or Italian, but they have a very similar belief. And in our apprenticeship at 16, he's there buying his first block of land.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Is that
correct.
something that
was absolutely? Yep. Absolutely. That was something from a very, very early age. Is property ownership was I remember when I was saving for my first car, and I wanted, fast cars and all the rest of it, as you do, which I end up buying instead of a ute. So I'm like, oh, Dad's like, what do you want? He said, and his first thing was, you could use that money towards a deposit for a house. The first thing. Yeah. And so yes, property ownership was very important, and I believe because when you've been not uprooted, but you've made that decision to change from your background, with Greek or Polish or whatever it happens to be, and you in a sense you give that up. You want to put down roots. You want something that's your own. So
this is your parents?
Yes, my parents.
And they're trying to instill those values on you?
100%.
Can I say that?
You can, definitely.
That is hypnosis in action.
Right, okay, that's very nice. Do I have to pay you for that? It's very sound.
Hey?
Have you trademarked that? Because I know what you're like, Steve.
That is my name of my show, but your parents spent their entire life hypnotizing you, and you, from what I can see, have become far more financially affluent because of it.
Yes, absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Where my parents didn't. They thought of me buying a block of land, or a house, during my apprenticeship, was simply never discussed.
Why do you think? Why do you think that?
I think it's a totally different psyche. The difference between my family, who were from Great Britain.
Yes.
My mother, first generation, she moved here. Yeah. My father was like fourth generation Australia.
Okay.
I don't. The idea of getting a house was something that you battled for after you were married.
Ah.
Okay. Right. That's how it was done.
We've hit on some. Can I just? We've hit on something really important, because it still is, and there's not. When and a lot of cultures, and I'm very aware of many cultures, when you as a young man and you're looking for somebody, in many cultures the parents will they'll ask sort of pretty much two questions. Where's the guy from? So, where's his family? Who are they? What's their standing in the community? And also there is at least some examination as to whether or not he's got a house. Because the point is, and I'm talking about the Greek mentality, if you've got I don't know, let's say 25, whatever it is, 25-year-old guy, or whatever it happens to be, 30 or whatever, and he's got nothing, it's like, well, what's he doing with the money? Is he just spending it at the cafeteria, whatever it is, gambling, smoking, whatever? It's like, it's sort of like, what I mean, he's mucking around with his friends, and he's not, it's a very family oriented. Obviously it's probably changed now because housing prices,
generation,
of course, but housing prices are so high, home ownership was also sort of showing that you're serious about your
lot in life.
Absolutely, and if you were, how can you be sort of thinking about getting married if you haven't got a house, or at least trying to, on the road to it? So you've hit a nail on the head for
and it seems we're both businessmen.
Yes.
Let's turn that into business for a second.
Yes, go for it.
So I grew up with this belief that it was difficult. This deposit for a house, or this getting a house was difficult.
Yes.
You grew up with the belief that this...
it was actually easy.
I was going to say was normal.
No, it's easy.
Okay, so it's easy.
Yep.
So I've got the belief that it's difficult. You've got the belief that it's easy.
Yep.
Which one of us do you reckon is going to attract the more money?
You, because you get a government grant.
What? That's probably not where I was heading with that.
Well, you did invite me in the car. It's like you've got a caged little tiger in the car. Oh, no. Well, actually, what you could do, this is, we could go halves in this.
Yeah.
We could actually get a government grant, and hopefully Bill Shorten will be elected, right?
Right.
And that I'll rant a little bit about that.
Okay.
Is what we can do. Can
I just say?
Yeah, sorry.
I have absolutely no understanding of anything in the news because I do not.
I don't either. I don't either. Actually, I don't. I actually don't either. I actually do not have, and I think that's where we're the same. We do not have. We've got Netflix,
yes,
which my daughter is happily being brainwashed by Barbie in the Dream House and or any of the other little ones, is turning into a great little consumer of everything. And I have I will check online and go, news stories of the day just to get the bullet points. We're the same. I just will not have that, and it is propaganda.
Yep.
As a coach, as a open thing, I cannot have, and I won't mention any names, those talking heads telling me on radio to whatever what to think or feel. I'm sorry, and I believe, and I honestly believe this, that the anxiety levels that we have are, I believe, due to the propaganda that life is terrible and it's tough and the crime, and it's not true. It's actually not true.
Absolutely 100% not true. In our life today, we are in the safest,
absolutely,
the most prosperous,
we are,
the easiest place that has ever been on this planet.
Absolutely, and I actually, not me, but I copied. So I've forgotten what his name is. Someone told me what it was. I heard it and wrote all down notes, and I gave that discourse as well. Never in human history, we've got it in the next few years, probably 10 to let's say 20 years, the average life expectancy of a woman will be 100 years average life expectancy, and there'll be many people living to 120. This is never, you go back in history, we were dying at 45, 50 was, a 70-year-old man was like Methuselah, So
there are different people talking differently about that. I've heard that this is the first generation that will have a lower life expectancy.
That's because of McDonald's.
Because of McDonald's, thank you. But my good one, the average woman or girl born today will live long enough to forget the name of their first husband.
Oh, dear.
Sorry, that's definitely not great.
No, actually, no, you're not politically correct, because we will not have marriage very soon. It's the most, unfortunately, most redundant. You think we will?
I think we will. I think there is something about it that it's happening later and later and later.
Yes, of course.
But yeah, I think it will continue. So, in your business, in your life, do you feel that this upbringing you've got with this first generation immigrant family has made it easier for you to get where you are? And I don't actually know where you are, but I'm guessing if it early 20s, unless like me you had your first ex-wife take it all from you,
I'm still with my wife in my 20s.
So yeah, I went from 2 properties to 0 at the end of my first marriage.
But what did you learn from that? Seriously, what did you learn from that experience? Really, genuinely, what did you learn?
The properties weren't that important. Right. Okay, the children that I lost was far more important.
Right.
Okay. And that's I went and did the property thing again later.
Yes.
But
did it make it easier for me?
Yeah.
I'll answer that as okay. To me, I remember the answer is, me personally, it made it easier for me.
Yeah.
But in my interactions with people that hadn't had that upbringing before I studied hypnosis, before Gestalt, before all of that, it made me frustrated. I remember we had some best friends, and I say past tense because they're not anymore. That's a long story. It's another show.
Yeah.
Anyway, they were of the mindset, oh my God, that their parents had nothing, and all the rest of it, woe is I. And so I, which I shouldn't do, so if anybody listening, please don't do this, I went, I'll problem solve for you. So guess what I did? Right. I said, you know what, if you've got this deposit, you know, if you could, and I went and arranged, a friend of mine was a bank
Mortgage
manager, bank manager.
Okay.
At the time, I can say the past tense,
Yeah.
you can't do it anymore, so there's inside information. The bank manager for Bank of Queensland could personally approve loans of X amount of money. I won't give you the detail. By himself, you know. Yep, cool. So I knew the person, and oh, look at this temporary Australian. Well
very
done.
Interesting. Yeah.
Interesting, right?
You drive the wrong way.
So I went
wrong
to
side
them
of the street.
and I said, you know what? Because I knew that they had X amount of dollars in the bank, because they told me. And I said, here is for this amount of money, which was the most that they could borrow. Guess what? You could buy in Carina, actually not far from where you grew up, literally one street over. Yeah. And I took them there and I looked, I said, look at the size of the block. I did all of that. And anyway, I wouldn't let it go. Typical, tenacious person at the time. And I, you know, the wife used a bit of pester power, and poor Simon, you know, dragging his feet, oh my God, whatever. And they bought the house. Yeah. And then 6 months later, there sort of was some financial difficulties. Oh my God, why we get the house? And I'm like, okay. And so I was enemy number one, because how dare I get them, help them to get a house in Carina on a big block? I mean, like, you know, seriously, why don't you just shoot us with a gun? And then years later, when because we were neighbours, you know, same postcode, you know. And I remember I said to Simon one day, when the property got to, it's about $600,000 worth. They bought it for $170,000. You know, I said, Simon, you know, blow my own trumpet. Isn't this awesome? Like that we're in the same postcode. Like, you know, in your places, it would be 600 at that, even more now, way over that now. And Simon goes, oh yeah, mate, but it was a real bloody struggle. I'm like, but like still the mentality, like, oh yeah. I'm like, well, and I'm like, I just couldn't understand. But see, the problem is problem solving. The mentality was, my parents came from, I won't mention any suburbs, but out towards the Sunshine Coast. We know some of those suburbs out there. They were living in public housing. They'd always struggled. And here was someone, suddenly, the 600 grand worth of house, so they had $500,000, whatever, worth of equity in the house. And, another thing was, and the wife said, oh, but we could sell. He goes, yeah, but the money we got from that, like, you just have to spend it on another. I'm like, oh my God. So it's a mentality. So that's why I say don't problem solve, because to them, if it was $1 million, it'd still be like, oh yeah, but it's a mentality. And so it wasn't joyous and isn't joyous to them, because in their mind, they've come from that, and that's almost where they belong in their own mind, and everything's reframed into the negative. They don't want to be, they would be more comfortable saying, oh, we never had the chance, we never had the chances, everybody else is more lucky than us.
So let's just relate that back to hypnosis.
Yes.
Okay. I haven't, these moments we've had together today have been gone by so quick. Yes. And I haven't asked you half of what I should have asked you. So I don't actually. Yeah, I think there might be. So I don't actually know what type of people you coach.
Okay.
So we won't go there.
We won't go. Good.
But what I'm saying is, this belief that Simon had.
Yep.
Is that something that's curable, or is that stuck there?
No. I look. It's very simply, it's when someone asks me a question, a very serious question about hypnosis and people being made to do things that they wouldn't want to do. Yep. And the first thing I said is, through hypnosis, nobody can have their religion changed. Okay, if that's what you believe, that's it. It's not going to be changed. It's in the unconscious or the deepest recesses of the, you know, when we're little children, we've been taught, for instance, to be in a certain religion, and if that's what we actually believe, it's not getting people, you know. So the point is, for the mentality that, or the belief, it's actually a belief, I come from X suburb, life is difficult, it actually has to be literally a conversion. You know, some people change their religion or I changed from a belief system to not believing in it. That is actually a deep-rooted belief. We can change it, but it has to be something that there's a need for that change, that belief is not serving us anymore, and then we have to take on the process of renewing that, as in the contact we have, religion or whatever teaches us, well, if I do this, I get that sort of cause and effect. Well, when our beliefs don't serve us anymore, we need to see that another way of thinking, the cause and effect, has to change. So is it curable? Well, as coaches, hypnotherapists, we don't change people, they change themselves. So it has to be something that they acknowledge is not healthy functioning for themselves, but it does take time to live in that, basically a new way, a new stream of thinking, because it's so deeply ingrained. It's not, you can't, let's just put it this way, when people do their breakthrough sessions, you're not going to do one session and suddenly, what's the word, change your thinking. So that's it.
So that's it. So are you saying,
yes,
that for Simon,
yes,
probably not possible to change it because he doesn't recognise, doesn't see, and
well, he doesn't want to, because we in Gestalt, Fritz Perls said, "What have you done to yourself?" And I love that about Gestalt, which is, it could be, I'm just guessing, maybe by abandoning those thoughts of our station in life, maybe, and I'm just guessing, is that maybe they might view it as a betrayal of the views of their parents. Right. You know, that their parents were wrong. I don't know. So
for Simon, no. For someone ambitious, wanting to get ahead, who grew up in the same similar situation as Simon and had those beliefs that I had.
Yes.
Maybe yes?
Yes, of course.
Yes, of course.
Absolutely, 100%. 100%.
So you're saying that as a hypnotist, we don't control people.
Nope.
We just take their thoughts and show them how to use them.
We certainly do. Absolutely. That's it. We don't, it's I suppose the forefathers of our of hypnosis, probably after the scientific endeavour of Nancy and so forth, then the stage sort of charlatans came along, the mesmers and so forth, and they muddied the waters, that their people were under control. But the fact is this, you cannot, as you know, you cannot, not everybody's susceptible. You know, they don't want to be part of that process, and they won't be part of that process. So the ability of someone that I would call, I think we're intuitives. That's what I believe that hypnotherapists are. We're intuitive, as in to understand the communication coming from the person, that what they view as their life is not serving them, and you can feel it. They talk about where they are in life, and you just, their body, their energy tells you that something's blocked, something's stuck. And so what we're doing is we are talking to the subconscious to say, what do you want more of or less of? So, you know, big thing's fear. You know, that's the big thing. You know, fear of opportunity. I remember once a guy said the hardest thing to deal with is success. You know, what happens, you know.
That's big. That's big in the entrepreneurial world. But we are running out of time, and we are going to do a second one because I had fun tonight. Today, driving aimlessly around the place I grew up. tell people where they can find you if you would like them to find you.
I certainly would. My name's Matthew Christopher from the Applied Mind Academy. You can find me on Facebook. And can I give my number? Because absolutely. Okay, my number is 0416 283653. So that would call me anytime.
Cool. Call him anytime. There you go.